So the first thing we're going to do is actually create our .NET project, and this is going to be for our web API. So when we installed the .NET SDK, we also got access to the DotNetCLI, and we've already used it to check which version of the .NET SDK that we have installed, and that's version 2.1300. But the DotNetCLI has quite a few options, and if we just do a .NET-H, this will give us all of the options that we have inside the CLI itself. Now, we have a .NET new command, and this is what we'll use shortly to initialize our .NET projects. The .NET SDK comes with a number of different templates to help us get started so that we're not building our project from absolute nothing. We're going to have a very basic template to start from, which includes all of the dependencies that we need just to get our web API started without us needing to start building individual files from scratch. The days where a developer that starts off in Notepad and starts creating various files to get a project started, thankfully, are long in the past. So we'll be making use of the .NET new command. We'll be using a few others of these throughout our adventures in building this application. We've got an option to restore dependencies of a .NET project, and we can run our project using the .NET run command. We can build the project and we can publish it. And we'll be utilizing these throughout the course. We're not going to worry too much about the other options down here, but we are going to be using these top 5, especially the new command and the run command. So also with the .NET CLI, we can get contextual help. So we're going to be building a new project or creating a new project. So if we go .NET new and then -H, we'll get contextual help for the different types of projects that we can build. Now, if we take a look at this list, these the .NET CLI is updated alongside the SDK, so these are liable to change over time, but we have a variety of different project types that we can create. Now, the one that we're going to be using to build, or the one that we're going to use to create our application, is this one, the Web API. So in order to do this, we're going to do .NET new Web API to create a Web API project. But there are other options, and one of them you might be thinking, well, why not use the ASP.NET Core with Angular? Well, that is a possibility, and it's not something we're going to do on this course. We want to keep our projects completely distinct for each other. The .NET Core project is very specifically going to be for our Web API, and this is going to be running all of our server-side code. The Angular project is purely going to be used for our front-end client-side application. Now, this one is all bundled in together. And if you want to experiment at some other point, please go ahead and do so. But I would very much recommend that you stick with what I'm doing on this course. The only issue I have with the ASP.NET Core with Angular is that when you use this template, it can get out of sync with the Angular framework versions. And by keeping the project separately, we can control which version of Angular we're using, and we can also control which version of .NET Core we're using. If we use that template, we're very much tied into Microsoft releases, although they have made some improvements recently, and they are now utilizing the Angular CLI to build the Angular project, so it is possible to free it up. But either way, we're going to keep these two projects as separate entities. So we won't use that. What we will use is the ASP.NET Core Web API. So let's go and delve a little further deeper, and we'll say .NET New Web API, and we'll just check out the help options for inside here. And if we scroll up, we'll see a wealth of different options in here. Now, the type of project we're building does rely on authentication, and there are some authentication options listed inside here. These are not going to be very helpful for us because these are relying on authentication with Azure, organizational authentication or Windows authentication, and none of those are suitable for the type of authentication that we want to use in our project. So we're not going to use that. The other options are also not particularly relevant to us. They're all related to Azure in some way or form, and we don't need to utilize any of these particular additional options. The only thing that we will use is the outputs and the name. So this will give us control over where to place the generated output and also the name for the output being created. So we'll do this, and I'll just scroll back down again and just clear the terminal window. And I'm inside my demo folder. I don't want to put all my code inside here. I want to make a directory full of projects itself, and this is going to be dating app. So I'm going to create this directory, and I'm just going to cd into it. And this is just an empty directory. And what I want to do now is say .NET new Web API. And for the output, we'll use dating_app.api. And for the name, -n, we'll use dating_app.api. Exactly the same. And press return. And this should go ahead and create our new project. And this didn't take long at all, just 1.24 seconds in my case. So if I just show the contents of this directory, that has created the datingapp.api. And I'll just cd into this and just list the contents of this directory, and that all looks good. This is what I would expect to see. So in the next lesson, we're going to take a look at this inside VS Code and see what we get out of the box with ASP.NET Core.